This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. Hope to find you well. I apologise. It's been a little quiet on the podcast front. I was just taking a little time away, but I always had this kind of episode in the back of my mind, should it have been needed. So here we are. England, under 21, European champions. How good does that sound? That's right. After 39 years of hurt, the young Lions at under 21 level, they've finally put that hoodoo to bed. Not since 1984, when we beat Spain over two legs, have we won that title. I appreciate there's probably some of you that weren't even born then. And I must admit, I don't remember it. But I was around. We did, of course, make it to the finals in 2009, wasn't it? But that ended in defeat to Germany. This time, 2023, Lee Carsley's boys have won their third title. Once again, it's victory over Spain, this time in Georgia. I'll be joined very shortly by Gary Lambert from Channel England over on YouTube to discuss it more. But first, just wanted to emphasise, this isn't a one-off. This has been a recent pathway of success for England, the FA, and also, very much, Gareth Southgate. Whilst Gareth's time in charge of the under-21s, many of you may remember back between 2013 and 2016, frankly, it wasn't a raging success. But he made that transition to the senior manager, following Sam Allardyce's little cock-up. He knew then that the future success for the senior team had to be based from the youth level upwards. St George's Park at the time had been built, but it needed to start bearing fruit. So with the FA, Gareth and the England side, they basically started that pathway. And it was never going to be overnight. The classic phrase comes to mind of Rome wasn't built in a day. But let me take you back to October 2017, our under-17s winning the World Cup for that age group, once again against Spain in India, the team that featured the likes of Angel Gomez, Emil Smith-Rowe, Morgan Gibbs-White, some names that may be familiar to you. There are more household names played then as well. Phil Foden, Conor Gallagher. That same year, the under-19s, they won the under-19s Euros. Again, by chance, that was in Georgia. They beat Portugal in the final. Some players, Aaron Ramsdale, Reece James, Mason Mount. And then again, in 2022, the under-19s, we beat Israel in the final. Because that was only a year ago, those players haven't sort of matured through so much yet, but they're the ones that we'll be looking to as the next generation to come through at under 21 level. But back to 2017, the under 20 World Cup, that was held in South Korea. We beat Venezuela in the final. Some familiar names such as Lewis Cook, Fikayo Tomori, Calvert-Lewin as well. Earlier this year, the under-20s, they bowed out of the World Cup held in Argentina. But you can also take into account there's the Toulon tournament. It's not the most prestigious of tournaments, let's be honest, but between 2016 and 2018, we picked up that trophy 3 times. Players such as Jordan Pickford, Jack Grealish, Reece James, Aaron Ramsdale again, Tomori. As I say, it's not the most prestigious of competitions, but success breeds success. And coupled with the Lionesses winning the Euros here on home soil last year, and of course the senior men making it to the Euro finals in 2021, times are good on the silverware front. But the time has come for the senior men to lift that trophy. And you'd hope that this pathway, that Gareth Southgate and his team beneath him at various levels, they can help him to enable that. But before we touch on that, I'm joined by Gary Lambert to take a look back over the successful under-21 finals and that great win in Batumi. Gary, hello, mate.
Hiya, mate. Thanks for having me again.
No, more than welcome. What a victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good night, wasn't it? And I think thoroughly deserved. I think straight away saying, England gone the whole tournament without conceding a single goal. That's the big statistic that's come out. So it was just been a reassured performance throughout the whole tournament from start to finish. And there's been so many players who have stood up in this tournament and overnight almost becoming household names.
Yeah. I must admit, I went and saw the under-21s. I think it was either back end of April or early May. They played at Fulham, Craven Cottage. They played Croatia and they lost 2-1. And I must admit, I came away thinking, I haven't really got high hopes based on that. And I'm going to hold my hands up. I don't watch enough of the under-21s. I watch the highlights. And to be fair, I've watched the highlights mainly on this tournament. I think I caught one of the early group games. But what were your thoughts going into it?
Well, it was, as far as an under-21 squad's going, this is actually, quite an experienced squad. I think we had no players under 20. So, a lot of the players were right on the cusp of the age limit. And we had quite a few. I think Gibbs White, for example, was over 21. It's just the way the eligibility works for this particular tournament. But it meant, as England fans, it seems like every youth tournament that comes around, we think we're favourites to win this because we look at the players and think, how can we go out? And usually it tends to be quite mixed. We either go out in the group stage and not do very well, or we tend to have a really successful run. In all the signs, looking at individual players, it looked like, England should do well in this tournament, but you never know. Youth tournaments at this level and I don't think people appreciate this, much more difficult than probably what they are at senior level because they're much smaller tournaments. So the teams that are there already, there's no one's there to fill up the numbers. Every single team and every single game that you play at the tournament's a tough game. So, you can never predict at this age range because most people as well don't know really the other talents that other teams have at that age range as well. But, looking at the squad, you had, some English players there who had good seasons. Gibbs White, Anthony Gordon's gone for big money. Emil Smith Rowe the season before had already broken, into the Premier League and done well. People have started to hear of Cole Palmer. Levi Colwill was getting, a lot of people were calling him to get called up to the senior squad. So you were looking at that squad and thinking, this England squad should do, maybe not win it, but certainly should do well. And I think they've done better than probably what anyone would have predicted. I mean, to face Germany, Portugal, Spain, and, go all the way through to the final and win it without conceding a goal, like I said, is just, phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm just going back to what you say there about some of those teams that people may not know a great deal about. I mean, take Israel, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't think they've ever qualified for a World Cup or a Euros senior level. I'm not 100% sure. Someone will correct me. But
they seem to do quite well at youth tournaments, though. They, every time there's a youth tournament on around UEFA in Europe, they're always in the mix. So it is interesting that they're there and thereabouts. But from a senior point of view, they seem to struggle to transition those players through, don't they? So
yeah. Well, the group stage, England were in Group C. And they were paired against the Czech Republic, Israel, and Germany. Amazingly, I know you've already mentioned that we didn't concede a goal throughout the whole competition, which is a fantastic achievement. But we won each of those games by 2-0. That first one against the Czech Republic, Ramsey and Smith Rowe scoring. Against Israel, it was Gordon and Smith Rowe scoring, and we qualified from that with a game to spare, which took us to the Germany game. I think this is the one I watched. I get confused with the ones I watched and the highlights ones. But this one, the second goal that Harvey Elliott scored was what a move. Of all teams to make a move against Germany, we almost played them at their own game from I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, where Trafford bowled the ball out to the halfway line. Harvey Elliott picked up on it, ran straight through and slotted home. I think that was the to make it 2-0. But yeah, the group stages were done and dusted quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, that Germany, it's worth mentioning as well. Obviously, Germany were the defending champions, and they still very much had a lot to play for. You know, their pride, if anything. And I can't recall if they had any. I think they did actually. If they could have beat us, they still had a chance of qualifying. But so they had a lot to play for. And if you look back at the team that Lee Carsley put out, it very much was a B team for the under-21 side. You know, he changed over the back four, and he put Cameron Archer starting, for example. So it wasn't the first starting 11 he'd chosen for the first 2 games, and certainly wasn't the starting 11 that carried on through the tournament. So to come away from that game with a 2-0 victory, with essentially the B team of the under-21s as well, just again topped it off, and the goals were absolutely brilliant, and we looked comfortable, didn't we? It was another solid performance. It
just shows that we have got such strength in depth at our level, which can only be good going forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's now, as we all know, it's the transition, isn't it? Realistically, if you get 4 or 5 of these players that then push on to become senior England internationals and, you know, playing for big clubs, that's a good record. History shows that teams that win at this level, it's not realistic to expect that all these 11 or how many, 18 or whatever was in the squad, it's not realistic that all of these are going to go on to bigger and better things. So, if 3 or 4 players can come through from this and push on, that'd be brilliant. But you're looking at this squad, and it's difficult to see whether there's so many, Anthony Gordon, Gibbs White, Smith Rowe, Jones, Gomez, Madueke, Levi Colwill, Trafford, and you can't see any of those players at the minute dipping, because they're on fantastic form and playing great football.
Well, this is the thing that, as you say, some players, or maybe 3, 4 of them, will progress through, and it's just through the nature of the game, of players' physicality and their sort of physical makeup, that some players, this might be their peak. And I don't want to sort of make it out to be. I think it's just it's natural, and it's the way it is, that some players, this will be their peak. And they can't progress on from here physically, or some may make a poor move club-wise. They may not be treated well by their club, and their career just maybe falters away. I know you've said about some players, it's good to see them go abroad and get experience in that nature. I mean, Fikayo Tomori is an example of that, and he's still around.
Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, of course, yeah, Jude Bellingham. Yeah, how did I forget him? Yet there will be a nucleus of this squad that manages to carry on going forwards. So you're right. Yeah, we can't expect all 11 of them to go through, or all 23 as a squad we've got. It's just not the way it works. But being more positive, it's on to the quarterfinals. We went to Portugal. Great team goal, this one. Anthony Gordon finished this one off after a great move where there was lots of sort of interpassing around the box, and it ended up with Gordon slotting it home.
Yeah, no, it was a great team goal, and it summed up the way England have played actually this tournament. It was. We have these moments of magic within this team, and Anthony Gordon has been one of those players that's continuously stood out throughout the tournament. We're talking about this group of players being a really good, solid bunch of players, but there's still 2 or 3 that have, even at this tournament, show that they're probably a step above this now and ready to take those next steps. And Anthony Gordon was one of them. He had a fantastic final, great goal, as you said, in that Portugal game. And I think this was the toughest game of the tournament. Having watched all the games, there was a big period in this match where we seemed to run out of legs, and I don't know how we held on, but we did. And it's great that we did, because that resilience, as we know, has been an issue with the senior men's, taking these leads and either not seeing them out, or, trying not to go for a second, or So it was great to see England actually consistently throughout the tournament take a lead and hold on to it well, because that's what we've struggled at from a senior level. But we just seemed a mature team. There was never really any moments of panic or, it was just a very mature team performance, and we looked relatively in control, but we did look like we were running out of legs against Portugal. So looking back, that was the key game for us.
Do you think it's kind of a bit of youthful exuberance, that the nature of that age, you just want to keep playing football and wanting to score goals, rather than being more sort of defensively minded and applying the handbrake, or perhaps that's Lee Carsley's sort of influence, Ashley Cole as well.
Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah, I mean, younger players asking a load of lads in the early 20s to sit back on a one goal lead is never going to be something easy to do as a coach. No. I don't think. But no, there is a bit of that. But I think the squad that Lee Carsley had at his disposal, the players he was starting to bring off the bench, like even in the final, Madueke coming off when we're 1-0 up, these are attacking, positive substitutions. So Lee Carsley was never bringing on defenders when we were 1 or 2-0 up. It was always swapping attackers for attackers and looking to counter attack. So I think as much as the players probably wanted to play that way, I think Lee Carsley did very much encourage them to do so. And it never seemed like, park the bus once we get a 1-0 lead. He still seemed to allow them that freedom to counter attack, and it proved really successful.
Yeah. Well, semi-finals saw us play Israel again for the second time in the tournament. Came away with a 3-0 victory after in that game after missing a penalty early on. Didn't seem to put us out of our stride. But yeah, won that and through to the final against Spain, who Spain had topped their group, winning 2, drawing 1. They beat Switzerland in the quarterfinals and tore Ukraine apart in the semi-finals. So it was always going to be maybe a tough opposition to play in the final.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spain had won 3 of the last 5 of these competitions as well. So, the pedigree was there for them. They've really been, over the past 10, 20 years, haven't they, started to produce fantastic players at this level and dominated this trophy really over recent years. So I think everyone was expecting a little bit more from Spain in the final, but I could argue that probably England restricted them, and it's the quality of England as much as Spain probably weren't at the races as much in the final. But yeah, the way they blew Ukraine out of the water in the semi-finals, and to be fair, England did the same to Israel. It was a very comfortable game. We may have not scored 6, but it was still a comfortable victory in the semi-final. So definitely they deserved 2 finalists to play each other. But I was definitely expecting more of an attacking threat from Spain throughout the match. And looking back on the game in the final, England certainly had by far the best opportunities within the match.
But those opportunities came fairly early, didn't they?
Yeah. The first 20 minutes, we were the better team by far. I mean, we should have been 1 or 2-0 up. There were some issues with the replays. Gibbs-White was played in, wasn't he? And it looked like he just had a tap in, but I think fair play to the Spanish defender. I think he got a toe on it and managed to, get it away. And England just came out of the blocks with a lot more attacking threat and intent, and just seemed like it was going to be quite a comfortable game. But then as the half wore on, Spain obviously came back into it, and you could argue the goal probably came a little bit against the run of play.
Yeah. Well, the goal came about because it was a free kick on, I wouldn't say it was on the edge of the box. It was a few yards back from the edge of the box. Cole Palmer struck it. It took a wicked deflection, in all honesty. I think if it hadn't have taken that deflection, it might have gone straight into the keeper's arms. But that they all count, and that took us into the lead at an ideal time, right on half-time.
Yeah, it was a wicked deflection, wasn't it? I mean, it completely wrong-footed the keeper, and obviously it actually came off one of our lads, didn't it? I think interestingly, we put players in front of their wall. I don't know if the intention was literally just to smack it against the wall and hope for a deflected goal, but it certainly worked out that way, and it deflected in. And you couldn't argue that England over the first half hadn't earned that lead in terms of chances created, but it was unfortunate for Spain. But yeah, he was one of them where I was begging in a left footer. The way it was on the outside of the box to the side. And I thought it's got to be a left footer whipping this in. And in the end, I think it was just going to hit the wall otherwise. But yeah, it came off. I think it was Curtis Jones's arse, I think, deflected in the opposite corner.
They all count.
They do.
So half-time, 1-0 up. And I must admit, I didn't catch the beginning of the second half. And I haven't since seen any of the subsequent replays. But Spain scored, didn't they? But it was VAR chalked it off.
Yeah, I think they were threatening. That Spain's biggest threat all night seemed to be coming from set pieces, and this was from what I remember, it was another set piece, and it was. I mean, the Spanish attacker just had it was completely on his own in the middle of the box. Trafford nearly actually saved it from point blank range, but it was offside. It wasn't. It wasn't one of those close ones. It wasn't one of a typical toenail lines on the pitch decision. It was a good head and shoulders offside, and it looked like that in real time. But it was an early warning, a warning call for England, if you like, early in the second half, and it seemed to be that, because after that, I think England then went on a stint in the second half where again we were the better team and started creating a lot more chances.
What I should have mentioned as well is bang on half time. The referee went on a card spree, didn't he? There was a lot of commotion going on the touchline. I'm not quite sure what provoked it all.
It was a nasty game, and in the outside looking in, because the cameras didn't seem to show any replays or weren't picking it up, but it just seemed like the Spanish were just taking exception to absolutely everything. I mean, they seemed to be cross that England was celebrating a goal. I don't know what they were appealing for, but I know Ashley Cole, I believe, got sent off, didn't they, from the touchline, and a Spanish coach, I believe, got sent off, but it wasn't clear, I don't think, what had happened. I think reading after the match, I think Cole Palmer was involved in a few things. And if you look at some of the replays, there were a bit of banter between the players, but the Spanish I don't know what they were appealing for consistently throughout the game, but yeah, they just obviously really didn't enjoy the fact that they were 1-0 down on the stroke of half time.
Well, all the action came at the end of that half, and to be fair, a lot of the action came bang on the end of the second half. So deep into injury time, there was 6 minutes given of injury time, and with about 5 minutes 50 seconds, to be fair, I think probably about 4 minutes of that injury time, there was a challenge. I say challenge in inverted commas on a Spanish player who proceeded to lie dormant, dead, on the edge of the 6-yard box. Play continued for some time before the referee eventually went to VAR. And with literally 10 seconds left of the 6 minutes extra time given, injury time given, it awards a penalty to Spain for what they then showed as a replay as quite possibly one of the most innocuous challenges I think you'll ever see. It was nothing.
It was a shambles of a decision. It was, I mean, both players, the ball was up in the air. Both players went to obviously side foot the ball. The English defender side foots the other player's foot. It was very minimal contact, and the Spanish player dove. He started rolling around, mad out, knocked him off balance. It was a terrible decision, but we all know as soon as the referee's told to go and have a look at the monitor, we know he's going to give the penalty. But if they're penalties and free kicks, and I think I said on my live stream that the football would never play. This isn't a non-contact sport. There is going to be contact between players, and it was an awful decision from our perspective, and your heart sank, didn't it? Mine did. And I just thought, oh my God, as an England fan, you always just feel like there's something always going against us, and you just thought, for God's sake. And yeah, it was one of them where by the time the referee had made the decision, the 6 minutes was basically up anyway, because like I said, he was on the floor for a good minute.
Yeah.
And you were just thinking, oh no, I mean, it was one of those moments where you just thought, this can't be happening.
Well, Spanish player stepped up, and I must admit, I thought he was going to do one of these silly dancing up and sort of stop-start, take a penalty, but he struck it. He struck it quite well, but Trafford, to his absolute credit, saved it once, saved it twice, and then the other guy spanked it over the bar. I mean, what an end to a game of football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's one of the best endings to a cup final I've seen, because I think if you line that, what Trafford did in that moment with the fact that he's kept a clean sheet throughout the whole tournament, it's just such a fairy tale thing to happen. And you're like, no one was beating him this tournament. And it was one of those where you think, as he had such a good tournament, I did feel a little bit confident, Trafford, in saving it, but I didn't want to say it's one of those where you think, no, I can't. And I don't think it was the best penalty. I think the second save for Trafford to react so quickly was arguably better, but I mean, what a moment. And it was justice, because it wasn't a penalty. It really was not a penalty. And I think it would have been incredibly harsh on England if Spain would have scored that and it gone to extra time. But Trafford, what a instant cult hero for England now. So yeah, brilliant moment.
Yeah, he as much as Palmer won us the trophy, Trafford has equaled that by saving that and keeping us in it, winning us that trophy for the first time since 1984. I mean, we've mentioned some of these players. Who do we see really going forward? I know it's like a finger in the air. I mean, Trafford, say about some of these players being having their career extended by making the right moves. He's supposed to be going to Burnley, newly promoted Burnley, from Manchester City. That's got to be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's the right move, and that's what players at this level, I believe, need to do more of. I mean, he's at, let's be honest, the biggest club at the moment in the country. You know, he knows he's got a cushy number there. He'll be, playing for Man City at that age group. You're thinking, I'm at the best club, but he's wanting to go out and play football. He's wanting to, be the number one somewhere and take a step up, and that's what I feel you want to see from these lads. And if they're going to succeed, they're the gambles they're going to have to take. Anthony Gordon, I think it's a big season for him. He went for big money, didn't he, to Newcastle, and I do believe he was one of England's outstanding players. He did win Player of the Tournament as well, so you expect him to now push on. Gibbs White as well. I think we were saying Gibbs White seems to have been around for years already, but he's still really young. So I'd like to see him go along. But I think Smith Rowe, for me, he should be leaving Arsenal this season. I just feel like it's going to be another one of those where he's probably not going to be a permanent starter. He's going to be in and out of the team. And I just feel like he's ready now to be playing regular football. And I don't think he's going to get that at Arsenal. And I don't know. For me, I would like to see him. I would like to have seen him move, but I don't think he will do. And then who knows with the others? Levi Colwill, everyone seems to keep mentioning him. I think from an England perspective, you've got to start looking at those defenders, because it's going to be a challenge, isn't it, for any attacking player to break into that England squad with the strength and depth we've got up front with, your Grealishes, your Kanes, Fodens, and all those sorts of players. But in the back four, particularly at centre back, Harwood, Bellis and Levi Colwill, you expect those two to have a good shout, actually, of coming into a senior England squad pretty soon, because we need other options there and we simply haven't got them.
Are we thinking for like next year? Can some of these players make the step so soon for the squad, all being well, we get there, for Germany next year for the Euros? Or is it too soon?
I mean, it's difficult because, as we all know, 6 months in football is a long time, isn't it? But, or, a year or whatever. But I'm looking at previous England squads that have gone to tournaments recently, and particularly defenders. You obviously have Maguire, Stones, your starters, and then it's your Conor Codys, your Mings, the players that may not always start. But some of these players have been in and out of the England squad now. They haven't made much of an impact. Why not? Why not take a Levi Colwill or a Harwood Bellis? Even if they don't play, it's great experience for them. And I'd be pretty comfortable with, either one of those two playing at centre-back for England. I really would. It wouldn't be, they're obviously not, they haven't got the experience yet, but, why not? Why not? I think you've got to have a mix of youth and obviously experience going to a tournament. And it's no good, is it, if we can't complain about clubs not giving these players chances, if then at the international stage, we don't provide them opportunities as well, particularly when they're playing well and winning trophies at international level, even at a youth one. So, we've got to, when I say we, Southgate, England, as an England fan, we've got to give them the opportunities now if they're proving themselves throughout the youth levels.
Yeah. Just a couple of other names that I think we ought to throw into the pot. Obviously, it's Cameron Archer, Cole Palmer, Harvey Elliott, Jacob Ramsey, unfortunately, went home injured during the tournament, but proved himself to be one of those players that I think can go forwards. And you kind of also have to say to follow in Balogun, here's what you could have had. This is what you could have had. You could have picked that trophy up. Not wanting to stick the knife in too deep. But,
the interesting thing is, and again, this shows the strength and depth England have. Balogun was England's top goal scorer in qualifying for this tournament at this level. So you think England's coming to this tournament with their top goal scorer, not playing, but we didn't miss him. We did not miss him. We didn't struggle to score goals or create opportunities. And I think going back to Jacob Ramsey, it was a nice touch, wasn't it, from the players at the end to hold his shirt up with the trophy. I think that was really nice. And it shows how England has changed. And I think this all comes from Gareth Southgate. It's long gone now, these club loyalties, these, confrontations. Every time any sort of group of players at English levels come together, they seem to be a really coherent group. And it's proving a really positive thing to do well in these tournaments. And Jacob Ramsey's at the right club with the right manager at the right time. Aston Villa will obviously be getting European football this year as well. So I expect him to go on and do bigger, better things as well. But you look at the squad and like you said, we haven't even mentioned Madueke, who at the start was one of the most exciting players. I do think as the tournament went on, he struggled a little bit and he did come out of the starting lineup actually. But he still looks a great talent. It's just there's so many good players there, and I expect more of these to go on and do something than previous generations.
Okay. Well, I know we spoke a little while back about when Gareth Southgate's job was up for debate, basically after that Hungary mauling. In the short time that we've got left. Can we throw Lee Carsley's name into the mix all of a sudden? Him and Ashley Cole?
Look, why not? Because I am a firm, but Barcelona, Spain, all these other, Italy, even to an example, all these other countries trust their systems. And how many times I've seen a Barcelona coach appointed or a Spanish coach appointed, and I've never even heard of them. And you just think because they've been involved with their setup, they know their style of play, they know the players. Gareth Southgate has proven that if you bring a coach up who's worked with the younger players and, who's essentially going to be coaching them at a senior level, it can prove successful. He knows them. I'm a firm believer you don't have to have a big name in charge to do well. And he's had a good tournament. He's done everything right, both from an attacking perspective and from a defensive perspective. So I wouldn't be against it at all.
No, certainly raised his stock. I know that you done a watch along on the channel for the game. Fair play to you. It went really well. And also I had you in my ear whilst I was watching the game. It's amazing how much you need to sort of keep talking. And to your credit, you've done really well keeping that watch along flowing. So fair play.
No, yeah, thank you for that. It was my first one. So, I didn't really know what I was doing, if I was honest with you, messing around with the graphics, but it was a good one. I think I said, what a first time, my first watch along on the channel and England win a trophy. So, happy days. I couldn't have picked a better one, really.
Onwards and upwards. It was good to watch and great to have you on board here. So many thanks for joining us once again. And no doubt we'll speak again.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for having me, Russell.
Big thanks to Gary there. His YouTube channel, if you're not aware of it, is Channel England Football. He's also on Twitter too, at Channel England 1. We'll no doubt chat again. But in the meantime, go give him a follow or subscribe to that channel on YouTube as well. It's got plenty of good content there. Going forwards, I'm just looking. The next Under-21s European Championships is 2025. It's to be held in Slovakia. And the next Under-20s World Cup, again, in the same year as yet. no venue has been selected for that. So there are plenty of opportunities to follow the young Lions. In fact, even sooner than that. The under-21s, well, they'll be looking to qualify for that Slovakia Euros as soon as the 11th of September, when they're away to Luxembourg. Then in October, they are at home to Serbia. The venue there is yet to be announced. Unknown venues. Yes, that's a touchy subject at the moment. Maybe this week, we shall see. I am, of course, talking Ukraine away. Tickets for the Young Lions, they are usually priced really well. I mentioned that I went and saw them, the under-21s play at Fulham. Cost me a tenner. You get to see the future stars of England, and you also get to see some decent Premier League, Championship, League One grounds as you do it as well. Of course, I'll try to do my best to keep you updated here. Now, thanks for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, you can follow the podcast on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And you may also have heard of Threads. Just search Three Lions Podcast. You'll find me there. So you can, I don't know, what do they call it? Thread me? I have no idea. That sounds a little bit dodgy, but you tweet me still. You can do. Get in touch. Always good to hear from you. So with one trophy already in the bag, which I assume actually will be either displayed at St George's Park or Wembley. There's another one up for grabs very soon. Of course, the Women's World Cup. Actually, if you're going on the Wembley tour anytime soon, let me know if you spot that under-21s trophy. That'd be good to know. Yes, the Women's World Cup. I will be taking a look at the Lionesses very soon. I hope you'll be able to join me for it. So until the next time, take care of yourselves. Cheers.